Hi guys, hope you're all blessed, hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me again on my channel. Tonight's video is a bit of a more personal one. It's from an emailed question that I've been asked, that I want to incorporate into me more personalizing this video and just letting you know who I am and where I come from and why I'm really doing this, and also just a life experience as well that I hope to share with you guys and just let you know how I dealt with it, why I felt I was in that situation, how I bounced back if I did, and yeah, and hopefully you lot get to know me a little bit more. And I keep on saying it, but let's grow together. Okay, cool. So I'm a Tottenham girl from North London. For those of you abroad, that's a place in London. It is a rough area. I have lived there near enough all my life. I did move out and live in East London for a while, but Tottenham is where my heart is. I grew up on a notorious estate, and this estate was called, well, is called Broadwater Farm. Growing up, when I was younger, I didn't really know where I lived was a problem. I didn't know where I lived was rough because I was a youth and I enjoyed it and I had lots of fun growing up. But as I got older, I realised that whenever I said where I was from, people were like, "Oh, rah, like you're from there? Okay." And I wouldn't say it hindered me. I can't lie. I don't think it did hinder me. I think it made me a better person, a more grounded person, a more focused and positive person, because I think living in an area that is, deemed as a minority area, I think it gives you character. And if you're from the hard knock life, I think you can really face anything else, to be honest. So yeah, I grew up in Tottenham, Broadwater Farm. I grew up with my grandmother and my mum. I don't know my dad, and anyone who can identify with that and connect with that, I don't know my dad, so I'm not sure about. All I know is that he's from Barbados. I don't really have a lot of information. Growing up, did I feel the void? I did feel a void. I'm not gonna lie and sit here and no, I was fine. But I don't think I let it affect me, in all honesty, and that is probably because of the strong women I had around me, my mum and my nan. But I know for some people it has affected them, and they had, as you call it, some women grow up with daddy issues. The fact that they haven't got a dad sometimes makes them go out there looking for it. So yeah, so grew up, I would say from the age of 17, that's when I really sort of took hold of my own life. I decided to move out. Looking back, would I do it again? No. I feel that I kind of threw myself out there too early. I definitely walked before I could crawl. I would never let my daughter go out there and fend for herself and try and see what life is like. I feel that when you're growing, you should be growing organically, and you shouldn't be forced right at any stage. Take your time to grow, and definitely, this always keeps on popping up in my videos, but get to know yourself, definitely, before you go out there. I met a young man at the time, who was 2 years older than me, and I felt like I was in love. You know, that whole head buzzing, butterflies in belly, feet clean off the ground. I was in love and no one could tell me nothing. Hearing from my mum at the time that, he's no good for you, you shouldn't go there. As a teenager, you kind of feel like the world and your mum is against you, and sometimes if you're headstrong as I was, you kind of feel to yourself that, boy, I'm still gonna go ahead with this whether you like the person or not. So I did, and it caused some friction, and me and my mum stopped talking. And these are all things that I want to put out there, because I myself am not gonna react to that with my daughter. And I feel that sometimes when you go through certain situations, you should definitely learn from them. And being the young teenager that I was, I feel that I'm ready to take on that with my daughter, because number one, she won't be leaving my house at 17 to go and live with no man. Okay, I'm skipping a couple of steps. Let me rewind. So myself and my mum's, we stopped talking for a while. I decided to move out and go and live with this young man and his family. At the time, I really didn't see anything wrong with it. I felt strong. I felt strong in love. I felt strong in my decision. You know, when you're just wrong and strong, that was who I was at the age of 17. At this point, I didn't have my grandmother around me at that time, because we had our own indifferences. And I think being a teenager, you got all those hormones going on. You feel that the world's always against you. You feel you know everything's right. You know this, you know that. Okay, you're big, bad, and bossy. So go on, go out there. Cool. So I ended up being with this man for 7 years. And during this time, I lived with, his family. His family warmed to me, and I felt like they were giving me everything that I wasn't getting from my own. Kind of like a makeshift family away from my real family. And these are all things that I definitely feel are important to, I have a young child, and feeling that want, that need from your family, and that love from your family, I think it is so important to a child, because I don't really feel at 17 I was fully an adult yet. Definitely not in mind, maybe in, my appearance, but for a child, it's important for them to get that love at home first, so they don't have to go out there and be in a gang, or go out there and be involved with another person, a man or a woman, because that they're trying to, find that love that they're not getting at home, outside of the home. And that causes a lot of issues, and I can definitely put my hands up and say I was there, and that's what I was looking for. Living with his family, I'm not gonna lie, it was amazing. They welcomed me, they loved me. We still have relations now. I mean, it was just beautiful, I thought. So in the space of 7 years, I was faithful, never ever strayed. Obviously, you have opportunities to stray, but the choice is, do you or don't you? And my choice was that I was not going to stray. Unfortunately for me, it was a one-way street. And this brings me on to the emailed question that the young lady asked me. She wishes to remain anonymous. That's fine. Thank you, my sister, for sending that email. But the question was, to myself, was that what was the most difficult moment that you can remember in your young adult life? And this moment that I'm going to explain to you was definitely is definitely my answer to this question. So being with this young man for 7 years, I lived with him, I cooked for him, I paid bills, his bills. His bills were my bills. I thought being a good woman was being honest, being that shelf to lean on when his face was on the ground. I thought that I should be strong and lift him up. At this time, he was studying, I was working full time, so I gave him my all, as in financially, emotionally, mentally, physically. He was my everything. But the mistake that I made, now looking back over the years, was I loved him more than I love myself, and it took me a long time to understand that. And man, woman, female, male, I just want to put this out there as a learning curve as well. When you're in a relationship and you love someone, that's fine. That's a beautiful thing. Embrace it. But when it becomes to take you over and you're now second best and this person is first, it's entering a dangerous zone. And the person who you're loving more than yourself will eventually clock that you're loving them more than yourself. And they may more than likely take advantage of that. It's very few and far between people that actually see that you love them a lot, and even sometimes more than yourself, that don't actually take advantage of it. If you're lucky and blessed enough to find somebody that never takes advantage of it, then you're lucky. But I wasn't. Okay. So we split up probably once in that 7 years, and during that time I met somebody else, and this is that whole rebound. Remember what I was saying, the 10 steps, if you've watched my last videos, for a woman, what she should do to find a man. Don't get involved with somebody else if you're still not finished with the person that you were with. We were still living together, but we were living separately. I know it sounds mad, but that's what we chose to do. He was seeing somebody and I was seeing somebody. My mistake, along with other mistakes, was involving somebody and bringing that person into me and allowing them into my space, into my world, to get to know me and love me. And if he does ever watch this, he knows who he is. And it's wrong to do that, because I brought this boy into my world, and I didn't anticipate the fact that I would ever go back with my ex, but I did, and I broke his heart. Now, part of my karma was dealing with what was to come. That's what I honestly feel. Okay, so we decided to get back. I broke up with this young man, broke his heart, and didn't even look back at the time. And I got back with my boyfriend. Now, as soon as we got back, another mistake was we decided to have a child. Now, he came to me with the proposal, and being 7 years strong together, I felt that, okay, why not? Why don't we have a child together? At this time, I believe I was 24. I feel that there should be more reasons than just love to having a child with somebody. I feel that some form of stability needs to be there, not just on one person's side, but on the other as well. I feel that some foundation, more than love, should be there. How is this situation going to work? We can't always plan to a T, but to some degree, we should plan if we're bringing kids into the situation. Now, at the time, as the saying goes, I was young, dumb, and full of cum. Excuse the pun. But I went in head first, without thinking, and just foolishly in love. And we decided to have a child together. During my pregnancy, I knew that something was not right. And this is another thing, people. If you feel there's something, and if you're not a religious person or a spiritual person, then, you can just listen to this and not take it in. But for those of you that are religious and that are spiritual, connect with me on this one. Sometimes when something is wrong, you can feel it. There's either a little voice inside of you telling you, something ain't right. It's either a little voice or a gut feeling or whatever you want to call it, but never in your life ignore that little voice or that little conscience that is in your ear or in the back of your mind. Never ignore it. For me, I had plenty of moments to listen to, and I overrode those instances. And later on, as I explain, when things started to unfold, how I realized that I missed out on God's voice. So during the pregnancy, my partner wasn't as excited as he should be, and this was his first child along with mine, and I couldn't understand what the issue was. And at the time, he was studying and in his second to last year of uni, and I thought, oh, you know, it's just the uni work getting to him, and he was very distant, and still I had something nagging in my mind. But yet I still ignored it and pressed on. When it got to the 9th month, and I was actually being induced to have my daughter, so this is right up to the T. So I actually went into hospital, was admitted, and it was then I decided I cannot bring my daughter into this world knowing that there's something wrong, drastically wrong with myself and her dad. And I decided to break it off. And he agreed. Strangely enough, at the time, he agreed. And I couldn't understand why. I just thought he felt the same as me. Things had changed. So I had my daughter, my beautiful little girl, Nerea, I love you, deuces, if you ever grow up and see this. But yeah, I came out of hospital on the 7th day. He asked me to join him at a fun fair that was across the way from where we lived. Now, at the time, alarm bells immediately rang, because he was somebody that didn't actually like to go out and didn't offer let's go here and there. And that's another indication that something's wrong. If you're the only person bringing in romance, or you're the only person bringing in date nights and stuff like that and making an effort, that's another issue that needs to be addressed if this ever happens to you. Okay, cool. So we went to this fun fair and we enjoyed the time, but always in the back of my head, I felt something was wrong. Cool. He took me to a little part of the fun fair that was quieter, and at the time I had my daughter in the buggy, and you know, he turned to me and said, Tash, you know, I've got something to tell you. Immediately my heart sunk, and I knew that whatever it was that I had been fretting on for this whole time, nearly a year now, I was about to find out what it was. And to the lady that emailed me, this was one of the most, how can I put, breaking points that I have ever been close to. And this is really what I want to emphasize and just answer your email with. This moment here, when he sat me down, he explained to me that he had another girl pregnant. He had been having a relation with this girl. Not only that, she was pregnant, yes, okay. She was having a boy, I was having a girl, okay. But then the biggest shock of all for me was that the time, or how can I say, the amount of months she was behind me in pregnancy was groundbreaking for me. So let's do a little bit of math. I'm not really a mathematical person, but I'm going to break it down for you. So we had plans to have my daughter. The time that I had told him that I was pregnant, if you do the math, 2 weeks after that, he went and slept with somebody else. In my mind, that makes no sense, because if you're planning something, then you're not forced into it. So you didn't accidentally fall and trip and land in this other woman. You knew exactly what you was doing, and you knew that you had another situation with the woman that you'd been with for 7 years. Okay. So hearing this absolutely floored me. I didn't know what to do. I felt like the world around me was just caving in. I looked down at my little girl, and I think for me, it was the whole point of creating this little being and now being told that whatever it is that you thought you was going to have, whatever life or fairy tale you thought you was going to live, that doesn't exist. But now you have brought a child into this equation. And for me, that was a bunch of mix-up. And growing up in the area that I grew up seeing a lot of girls getting pregnant for men that were around my area, just breeding for fun. Now, and they always ended up in a mix-up. And I look back and I thought, rotted. I could have been one of them girls easily, but I chose to dedicate myself for 7 years with one man. How the hell have I ended up in this susus? Because that's what it is. It's a bunch of susus and mix-up. And I looked at this little girl, and all I wanted to do was just push her back up. I just wanted to save her and not have her at that time.